Amir before on the dark web that will like kind of do a bit of a string search, but it'll
This is cool. Let's podcast it. Yeah. let's do that for the podcast. Okay, I'm ready.
What's the plan, person? Welcome back.
CyberSpace.
Imperial Trading. Do you know what I mean? So like, they're like Imperial Trading. Welcome back.
Ooh, and welcome back to the CyberSpace podcast. Oh, it's moving.
Oh, Wheeler.
Welcome back.
Run the Wheeler.
Pull it back. Oh, there you go. Fade out. Welcome back again for the third time to the CyberSpace podcast. This is Empirical Training. My name's Josh. I'm a security product specialist, former SOC analyst. And today it's just Robbie. So we got some nice one-on-one time. Robbie is our security consultant, former SOC leader, many hats because he can do many different things these days. Hence the broad title, right, Rob? But
I try my best.
Yeah.
Good evening or morning, depending on when you're listening.
Yeah, and hello to this. I mean, people have listened to this all around the world now, which is really great. We've got some downloads in every single continent, which is awesome. Getting the community, guys. The community is super international, and we are loving the different points of views that brings on all the different security issues that we talk about, which is kind of what we're going to do today, right? I think we're going to talk about some stuff that I've seen in the news, and Rob, you've got some stuff that you've been talking to the community about, and they've got some interesting insights.
Yeah, thank you for all of the support as well on the podcast and anybody that joins the school communities. Yeah, we appreciate every single one of you.
And thank you to our audience today. We're in the gold tier, so it is a smaller audience than usual, but the gold are kind of more focused members that we can spend more time with discussing. And I won't name her, but you know who you are. Been chatting with us a lot in the lead up to this. It's quite nice. So this is a good conversation. And now we've hit record. We're going to get our professional hats on. Not too professional though, because we do this for fun, right, Rob?
Yeah, we're not that corporate when it comes to filming this pod. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, and that's
within reason.
Within reason. Well, yeah, we are responsible security people as well.
That's right.
But I think we realized we want it to be a space where you can talk about cybersecurity issues and not have a level of pomposity that you might feel sometimes. Not for any shade to podcasts, alternative podcasts, but more just. It is quite a technical zone, cybersecurity. If you're trying to get into it, you're trying to familiarize yourself. I used to listen to stuff that I had no real idea what was going on with, just trying to immerse myself in it and expose myself to it. But I would have loved to have a little bit more of an informal, down-to-earth podcast that I could have gotten on with when I was in my early days. So hopefully that's what this can be for you guys.
Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming, all of the technical jargon. We try and make it fun. We try and simplify it a little bit. If we can do, that's our whole mission statement really, is to simplify cybersecurity, make information available to all people, break down those barriers, lower that barrier to entry, democratize education.
Freedom! Just like how we got into it, Rob.
Yeah,
we didn't know everything when we started, and and that's the point of this job, is you're constantly learning. Every single day is a school day. If it's not, to be honest, you're a pretty poor security professional, and you should probably find another job. Maybe pulling pints. Something that doesn't change day by day.
You need to keep learning, brother, every day.
So, on the theme of simplifying stuff and trying to make complex topics accessible, let's go for an absolute doozy with quantum computing. Rob, have you seen quantum computing in the headline? Because I'm still torn whether it's actually super gimmicky or actually something we need to talk about more and more to get kind of prepared for it, because it could be in the distant future, it could be around the corner, but you might have heard any rumblings. Have you heard about it before?
I've seen it in the movies. No, I couldn't give you a dictionary definition of what I think it is, but it's a supercomputer. That's what quantum computing is, and apparently we're not quite there yet. There's some machines that are out there and devices that people are using with a lot of graphics.
You're not wrong. Supercomputer is exactly what it is, or exactly what it's purported to be. And when I I'm going to try my best to explain it to you. I'm going to try in kind of the layman general terms of the journey we've been on and what contributing is. We're then going to talk about its implications for security, and that's where I know you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, well that makes perfect sense," because that's where it's going to really meet the challenges of security that we kind of currently face, but also the future ones when basically computers get way more powerful, that they can break stuff a lot easier than we currently can today. So let's go back to the beginning of computers. And this might be a bit confusing because there was a computer that was discovered on a shipwreck, I think in the Mediterranean. Is a Greek ship or a Roman ship. I don't have it up right now. Something I've learned a long time ago, actually, that had the function of calculating, of simulating the universe. Sounds really complicated, but basically it was just trying to work out where the sun is, where the moons are, and then trying to predict that type of pattern. And so that's kind of the basics of what computing is, right? So, it's a thing that helps us calculate things and has an output. So you put kind of inputs and there's some sort of output at the basic level. So I don't know exactly how that
time period. What time period are we talking?
2,000 years ago. And nobody really knows how that one worked, right? Because it's rusted at the bottom of a shipwreck. But it looks, there's enough confidence to say that this is the first example of one. But you could also say that a basic computer, an analog computer, let's use that term, is like marking lines on bones or on wood, right? To count things. Like how many sheep do you have? If you trade them off, I think you got to keep a record of it, I guess. So that's kind of another example of analog computing. Fast forward to I think his name's something Babbage, who was one of the first guys to kind of make a mechanical computer. It's still analog, but basically it's the clockwork type of computer that you probably, I think, like Lemony Snicket. You remember that film?
Yeah.
Count Olav and the gang. That always reminds me of like the clockwork types of things. I'm sure everyone's got their own references. Hopefully no one's thinking of Clockwork Orange. I don't want to trigger anyone wherever they're listening to this right now, because that's quite a triggering film. But that one was basically wheels and cogs that then you could get it to put in calculations. You could ask it things about how to calculate interest rates. This is 1800s now, Rob, we're talking. So banks would use it, shipping companies would use it to do kind of big calculations, but requires a lot of knowledge of how to kind of put things in and get it out. So it didn't really take off. But that's probably the latest example of the analog one. And then we moved to digital. So are you with me so far? The analog stuff, I haven't lost you? Yeah. So
No,
you can see
I'm with you. I'm writing down notes, but I'm with you.
So we're making steps forward in how effective these are, but the real steps don't come from when you go from the 2,000-year-old little mechanical thing that no one really knows how it works to the sticks and bones, or the abacus. That could also count. So the beads that you push across is technically computer. And then the Babbage's kind of clockwork computer. The big leap comes when you move from a type of computer, so from analog to digital. Digital is where we're at now, but the early example of that was Alan Turing. So if you've seen that film, I can't remember what it's called now, but Alan Turing, Benedict Cumberbatch, the computer science guy who broke the Nazi code.
Oh yeah, is it the imitation game?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, Enigma.
That's right. So that was, hey, we don't have a computer that's powerful enough to break this code, and I think the code changed frequently enough. So he set about making his Turing machines. It's laid a lot of the foundations for the kind of the rules of computers as they are today, the computer science kind of principles, I guess, as well as some more moralistic stuff that he anticipated for the future. We're not going to go into that. But this was now where it's digital. So why is it digital? Because we've gone from things moving like analogically. I always like to think of the clock, actually, when I think of analog, the tick, tick, tick. And now we're digitally. We've got the digital clock because it's now using transponders, which are little resistance things, little circuit resistant things, I believe, in that were then used to kind of signify on or off. So we've got binary, we've got zeros or one. They're either on or they're off. And don't ask me to explain how binary works, because to this day blows my mind how what I'm looking at right now is just technically zeros and ones, and I can see Robbie on the other side of the screen and I can see our chat. But that was the big leap forward. And then we've now got the Windows 96 machines, Windows XP, we've got MacBooks, we've got Linux, etc. That's all still digital computing. So with me so far?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Nice. And there have obviously been steps forward in the digital space from the Turing's machine, even from the Windows machines 10 years ago, 20 years ago to the ones today. You can see massive steps forward then. And you talked about the graphics cards and CPUs, whatever. Yeah, they've made it more effective, but basically they've done that a lot by shrinking down what those transponders are, to try to make them as small as possible, so they can have as many kind of compute units, I guess, many 0 and 1s to process at any one given time, and that's why your hard drives are getting smaller. The cards, your GPU cards or your CPU cards aren't really getting smaller; they're getting more powerful because they can cram more in there. But the ultimate transponder, and a transponder is something that can take electricity through and kind of measure it, is an atom. And that's where the theory for quantum computing began. So rather than digitally with circuits, how could we use an atom to channel electricity through and to measure not just if it's on or off, the 0 or the 1, but all the bits in between? And this is where it gets really complicated. This is where it gets to like particle physics type of quantum physics level. So we're not going to go into exactly all those bits in between are, but if you ever remember learning about like how electricity or light can be a wave or a particle, did you ever do that in school?
I did, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
I was just so uninterested in those subjects. I was so focused on sport, and I was actually pretty good at maths. But yeah, science for me was just pretty boring. But so is it a nuclear computer then?
That's a good way of thinking of it.
If it's got an atom included,
kind of. I mean, hopefully it's
terrifying.
Not. Yeah, because it might pop off. I don't think it's that kind of nuclear dangerous. So there's no fusion or fission that's going. But yeah, I mean, I guess nuclear means it must be linked to the word nucleus, right? Which is like the center of an atom. Because atoms are made of even smaller things, electrons, protons, etc. And that's why all those different things that are made up of it, they can kind of behave in slightly different ways. So rather than, if we look at it in the most simplistic way, you get a 0 or a 1 in the binary stuff. But here you could get 0, 1, 2, or 3. You can get 4 options because it can behave as a particle, or it also can behave as a wave. I think that's how it was. That's like the year 9 level explanation. In reality, there are way more than just 4 options, and it's kind of goes to Schrodinger's cat. Did you ever watch Big Bang Theory? Pop culture references everywhere today.
I know what Schrodinger's cat is. Yeah, is the cat even? No, if you can't see the cat, then is it dead or alive? And you don't know until you actually open the box.
Yeah, and so until you open the box, it is both dead or alive at the same time, because is the poison that will release at any random moment. But technically the cat could be dead right now, but until you can see in the box, until you measure it, the cat is both dead and alive. And that is the kind of the mind-boggling theory of how these kind of quantum states behave. But that's how it works, right? So it can, and I've seen this explained even further with it's almost like parallel universes, because it can exist when his cat's in there, in one universe it's alive, in one universe it's dead, and only when we open the box up do those universes kind of combine together and we get just one of them. At that point it's 2 of them existing. So that's kind of, and I think this is maybe a little bit of hyperbole, but that's the I saw a famous physicist saying that quantum computers are, imagine we can now make these calculations not just in one universe, but in 2, in 4, in infinite universes all at once. I think he was just trying to make it accessible for us to understand.
You know who taught me about Schrodinger's cat at the place that we both worked at?
Yeah.
Could you guess who
our first job?
Me?
Would it be a man named first name Andrew, second name W?
No. Oh, that's a great shout though, but no, not him, but another person who it could be.
Oh,
it's not him, but it's yeah. There you go.
Good. Yeah. And he's a very private guy, so we won't say anything more than his nickname. But if you are listening to this, I still keep in contact with him. He's a good guy.
What a bloke.
Great energy.
But yeah, he taught me about Schrodinger's cat.
But probably not in as a relevant way as I'm telling it to you now about quantum computers. It's probably some nonsense.
I think it was it was either nonsense or it was something relating back to cybersecurity, because we would have been in work and it would have come up somehow. Can't remember.
But so that's, I think that kind of explains where, in principle, what this could be. So it basically opens up this whole nother levels of compute power. It exponentially multiplies what we can currently do with digital computers.
So is this in the news at the moment then, quantum computing?
It's been talked about since the early 2000s, and they still think it's probably quite far off, although there have been some steps forward. So some predictions say 2029 for the first one. There's some like Harvard have got like a loads of people working on this, and they've made some steps forwards. They have fantastic names.
Quantum computing. Hopefully Elon Musk is not working on quantum computers. We'll leave him to figure out Tesla and getting everybody to Mars, because if he focuses all of his efforts and money and resources on that, then I guess it would be sped up a lot. And do we want to progress in the quantum computing world?
It's a good question, because 2027 they're now thinking it could be the nearest one, and there's also talk of, will it be publicly available, will it be kind of in the hands of a government? Is there one out now? The tinfoil hat people will be saying right now, kind of deciding things in the background. Is this whole universe a simulation running on a quantum computer? Okay, let's away from that rabbit hole. But your question is a really good one, because it will make everything more efficient. Is the idea? It'll be a huge leap forward into how we do simulations for farming, how we do modeling for farming, how we build buildings will change, how we work will change. I think this is much more likely to be the revolution that changes how we work than the recent AI revolution, in air quotes, has been. Because for me, that's just changed how we interact with computers. The AI level intelligence hasn't really developed much. It's still been there, and but previously it was reserved to people who knew how to do data science questions and make it work in the way they wanted it to, rather than maybe yourself or me asking DALL-E to make a picture of a worm with riding on the back of a cat. Weird example. I'm sorry, I had to freestyle that one. But
you've definitely created that image as well, haven't you?
drop that in the chat. But I think this is where it actually everything gets a lot smarter. So it's a good question. Will that have consequences? And then we get into the iRobot style AI, and will it decide to delete humans because we're the real problem? Who knows?
So at that point, would OpenAI and artificial intelligence not run on NVIDIA graphics cards, but it would run on quantum computers instead?
Yeah, and then it would be able to make decisions way quicker, learn way quicker. Anything that can currently do, just 10x it or whatever. So the development of those sorts of things would go rapidly ahead. What's interesting is I saw someone talking about how we've actually overtraining the AIs now, because they're based, people ask, hey, how do you code this? They then implement it. AI kind of almost learns off its own code. So the AIs are making themselves dumber because their own output, they look at, say, all the code in the world. They then probably going to produce something that's incredibly average. They can't really tell what's the best and what's the worst. They've put something stupidly average out. Someone re-implements that. There's more average code in the world. Over time, the code gets dumber. That was the argument I saw. So I wonder if it would accelerate the devolution of AI, because by letting it learn from itself way too quickly, or by then we might have worked out how to avoid that overtraining problem. But sorry, cybersecurity. So this podcast is not for tackling the world issues, and that we'd be here for too long, and we're not experts on that, but we are good at cybersecurity, and it's encryption that's been the real thing that's come up. So if you've got a computer that's super powerful against encryption standards, present day encryption standards, I guess that would make the encryption redundant. That's the fear right now, right? So your WhatsApp messages wouldn't be encrypted because someone could just brute force and guess it with that level of compute power. Any passwords that are stored encrypted, it should really just be the hashes, right, and the salted version or whatever. But any sensitive data that's encrypted and thought to be safe could be taken and then cracked right into with a quantum computer. So the world has been rushing to create encryption standards that are post-quantum standards, that post-quantum cryptography, that are going to be complex enough that even a quantum computer couldn't handle it.
Surely in the beginning, these quantum computers are going to be costing millions or billions of dollars, and they will be gate kept from certain individuals. And when will there be a publicly available version that is affordable for the average person? Who knows?
So I agree with you. I think you're probably going to be the stuff of maybe it's almost like a bit of a space race who can get to it first, and then they might hold on to it quietly for a bit, unless maybe it's a private organization that manages to do it, because then they might push it out. But I think your point is fair, that it's probably going to be nation states, advanced persistent threats, who are going to have the ability to do that. And one of the really interesting points I've seen, because I thought, okay, well, they're making these standards now. We'll implement them in a few years, hopefully. NIST are actually behind a lot of this. They made 3 standards. Do you want me to read you the names? They're quite fun.
Yeah. Yeah, go on then.
Okay, so the NIST algorithms, there's 4 draft post-quantum cryptography algorithms. And the first one is, I was going to shout the capitals, but I think that's not nice for the listener. But crystals Kyber, crystals to lithium.
To lithium.
I can't say this one. Sphinx, but it's spelt really weird.
Mm.
And Falcon, just Falcon.
Just Falcon, yeah. Unoriginal.
Yeah. The naming convention of security tools being, I don't know, nerds get to decide these, right? So that's why they always get.
Or would they become a bit of like an outlawed piece of technology? Ooh. So, the quantum computers can only be operated by government officials or law enforcement, or people that should be using them, and then everybody else is not allowed, potentially.
That's I can definitely see that as being possible. Probably the way that the way that governments tend to work, will have to wait for there to be a monumental cock up before that kind of gets restricted back. We're not normally the best at foresighting these things and thinking about what could happen. We tend to just throw it out there and let people do what they want with it, and then we're like, oh, maybe that was a bad idea. So I think the other thing is password cracking, right? Because I think that's going to rapidly get through It's anything that requires loads of that currently might take you days or hours to kind of crack, will be to be able to do in minutes or seconds. So yeah, it's a good. And I also thought, I had your thought too, like, right, okay, in the future when we have the quantum computers, whatever, we'll have these encryption now, and we should have developed things to protect against it. So how are they going to be helpful? And then I saw a comment about steal now, crack later. What do you think that means?
Steal them now, and then in 20 years' time, you'll be able to crack them.
Yeah,
that's actually a great point.
Because there are some industries that just don't move forward very quickly. Nuclear power plants, for example, it's given, right? If you steal sensitive data from there, it's probably not going to change in 20 years, 10 years. It's probably still going to be relevant. So that was actually quite worrying. Because initially I thought, oh, this is just another news article talking about some cool stuff, because it's got the word quantum in, and like you said, it's sci-fi movie. But no, it could be there.
I did a post ages ago talking about how quickly you could crack certain passwords based on their character length and complexity. And I forget the numbers now. I'll have to refer back to the post, but I know that the last option was a 14 character password, uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and numbers. And I believe it was something around it was like 16 billion years or something it was going to take to be able to crack that password with current computing power that exists today. So yeah, maybe we need to ask OpenAI how quickly it could crack it if it was using a quantum computer.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. It would be a lot quicker. I shared that post as well. It's a great way to kind of show people why you should care about how long your passwords are. Obviously, it doesn't protect you from someone stealing your 14-digit multi-character, uppercase letter from a website that doesn't protect them. So don't use one really long password everywhere, guys. Use a password manager.
Yeah, or is it going to force everybody to have to use password managers and then generate 50 character passwords for all of their accounts? And some businesses online, they have like a max limit. Like there's certain, I've actually signed up to certain like websites where if you try and put a password in that's longer than say like 12 characters, it'll error out. You have to literally go within their scales.
Yeah, and how frustrating is that when you do a complex password and they say, nah, not compatible, make it dumber. You're like,
Yeah, take out the special characters. I had to do that the other day for something. I can't remember which one it was, but
yeah. Well, yeah, I think it will change. I don't think this is something that's on the horizon. There's nothing for like the personal user to do right now. At the moment, it's the stuff is kind of targeted at critical infrastructure businesses and kind of getting them ready to swap out their encryption algorithms for these post-quantum ones when they come out. So it looks like we're on top of it, and I wonder what will come next. I wonder what will be the next big initiative to build passwords is probably, and identification is probably a good call there. But
yeah.
do you remember when we used to first work together? One of the things we do was analyze network attacks. So kind of deep packet inspection tools to see when there was someone was doing like a web exploit and then see what the response was. Encryption has a big role there, right? Because obviously things like Snort, Suricata, they're open source IDS tools. They need to be able to decrypt the traffic to be able to monitor it. So I wonder how this is going to work for, for those type of security solutions, because encrypting it does have benefits. Like the traffic in transit does have benefits because no one can inspect it and snoop on it. But it also means the good guys can't monitor it and work out what's going on. So you might not know when you're getting F'd in the A, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nice.
We used to, so I think that we've covered that one quite nicely. We'll see if anything else comes up of it. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I hope it's a little clearer to you, Rob, and to our listeners. But yeah, watch this space. I think this could be more of a revolution. Well, quantum computing will be a bigger revolution than the recent AI revolution, in air quotes, has been.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen in my day-to-day security stuff huge changes into how we've used machine learning / AI to deliver security outcomes. I don't know what you think about that, or if it's just my cynical view.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one, to be fair, but
you should get Vaughan's opinion. He'll tell us AI can solve everything.
Yeah, let us know in the comments actually when you think the first quantum computer will be available in stores in Tesco's. Or Walmart or Target.
That was a big topic. Do you want to do a little small one before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, I was going to bring up a post that I did this morning in our free community in school. I raised an article that talks about the NFL using face scanning technology across all of its stadiums. So, if you're coming to watch the game, when you're going through the turnstiles, it's going to be scanning your face and recognizing you and, profiling your existence there. And, there's going to be, I don't know, tags that are associated to you at that particular moment. And then it will remember you when you come back. It will remember your name. I guess it will have certain identifiers that will be applied to your digital footprint within that stadium. And my question to the community was, will this dissuade some people from turning up to these events? Because there's a lot of people that care about their own personal privacy, especially people in the US. I feel like they are one of the biggest advocates for trying to, keep themselves as private as possible. The UK, I feel like people in the UK care less than the people in the States, but a lot of people do care about their privacy in the UK nonetheless. But
it's not the same freedom. We don't say that a little bit. Yeah, I mean the other side of that is, hey, if you got nothing to hide, why would you not want it? You go on, Rob.
True.
What are you trying to hide? Are you a criminal? Is that why you don't want facial recognition there?
I'm not a criminal, but it's just, I don't know. Some people just care about everyone else knowing where they are and what they look like and what they're spending their money on and their interests. And
Well, let's
and
assume.
their whereabouts as well. You know, like you
Mhm.
don't want that. That's a big thing
Yeah,
for other people to know exactly where you are, and also this could be a bit of a domino effect in the States and then elsewhere in the country or internationally. Other countries might start adopting this in just random places, you know, with the security cameras in most places, in most big shops, and you know, anywhere that
mm,
sells things. There's, well, even on the streets in London, and we're
yeah,
in Cardiff, there's security cameras everywhere, but they're not specifically tracking and scanning your face like biometrically.
yeah. No, it's a good point. I was being a bit flippant there to be like, hey, let's assume, but let's just assume they're all really good guys, and then but what happens if a bad guy was to steal it? Like all the
Yeah,
points you
true.
raised, it's not just the privacy angle that hey,
Yeah.
you have a right to privacy, you should be allowed to not have this data out there if you don't need it, but also people are really bad at protecting sensitive data, and if they hold that on you, someone can go and grab it. Like maybe there is a stalker who knows a bit of has a few tricks up their sleeve with a Kali Linux or something, and can target something and steal data on your location and where you've been, because there's a trail or there's breadcrumbs of you. I mean, we can get into how there are loads of other ways of doing that, but it is a valid concern.
It is
And
terrifying. Sophia's saying the article also said it will remember your payment information, and you only have to look
ooh,
and smile at a camera to buy things from the concession stands,
you have to
which
smile.
yeah,
What if you're just a really happy guy standing there and everyone's like
yeah, you
telling
just got
jokes?
paying for everything. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
But you right when you said about London having loads of CCTV. I think I don't know if there's so many cameras here. I know that people often comment on that. But there's also an Amazon grocery shop. There's a few of them popped up where there's no staff. You walk in and it facially recognizes you, and then you just take the stuff. It works out you take, and then you walk out, and it just charges your Amazon account. And I'm not going in there. For all the
No.
reasons that you mentioned, and Amazon, I don't see them as the good guys either. They might mistakenly, even if they're not the good guys, they might mistakenly let my data leak somewhere or be used in a way that I don't consent for, which is another issue.
I saw a video, or was it somebody talking about Apple are going to release a ring soon that is going to enable people to pay for things contactless, so Apple Pay, but it's through a ring, I
Oh
think.
yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure
you
if
can
that's
get that.
true.
I've seen people who have that. Yeah, I used to work with a guy actually.
Is
Yeah,
it out for Android phones right now?
I think it's whatever technology. It's classic Apple, isn't it? They've saying, "Oh, we're the first to make this," and realize it's been around for a while. They're just going to make it look really nice and brand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you. I've seen a guy pay for his stuff with his ring a few times, and yeah, it's just a chip. I think it's an NFC
Yeah.
chip. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, next up is an actual chip in your wrist, isn't it? And then
Mm.
we are turning into robots then, or the Neuralink. It'll somehow that will work.
So it's good. It's good to have these conversations. If they just if nobody challenges and lets them kind of run away with these things, they won't use it responsibly. And we need to know as consumers when to say, "Oh, I'm not comfortable with that. Can you prove to me that you're going to use it for the right reasons? Prove to me the benefit," because it's hard to get those things back once everybody starts using facial recognition tooling willy-nilly. How do you feel about MFA, using a biometrics for MFA?
I think that's really powerful, because it's something that would be hard to actually bypass at that point, isn't it? You
Mm.
know, because the MFA via codes that are sent to your phone, there are certain ways that hackers can get around that and bypass that. Even with one-time codes from an authenticator app, there's vulnerabilities and flaws that exist
Yeah.
right now. So yeah, the biometric angle is going
Yeah.
to be the safest way moving forward in the future, I think.
I'm sure you can there'll be an exploit for it as well, or you can trick it in
Oh
some
yeah, for
degree.
sure.
But no, I do get your point there.
We've all
I just
seen in
don't
the
know if I'm
movies of they've like cut out somebody's eye or and used that at the
Yeah, yeah.
scanner in the movies.
I was watching one last night actually. He hacked his thumb off. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean that risk aside, I don't even use facial recognition on my phone because I just don't like I don't know enough about it and what it's going to map like to my face or whatever that might be able to be used in other places. But I can see the convenience, right? You've always got your face on you. You've always got your thumb on you, unless someone hacks it off to steal your stuff. Whereas I prefer like the YubiKey, like the physical token, which is, you know, a very hard one to compromise, very hard to kind of steal. But I don't always have it with me when I need it. Or even you mentioned phone, your SMS message or your authenticator app. I lost my phone, as we know, a few weeks ago, and you guys all made fun of me on the podcast because I went silent for a bit. I really struggled to get work done when I came back to work because I was slowly getting locked out of everything, and I had to, you know, jump through all the hoops to get my phone reinstated to me and all the authenticated apps reset up and so on. So it does hamper your productivity.
Yeah, get your backup codes saved, people. Just get a password manager, save it all in there, save that offline, the database, or back it up to your own cloud storage that you can log into. Have some measures in place for disaster recovery for your own personal security. It is important, and people definitely overlook that as well.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I'm all for doing the really complex security things when I set up accounts, and I just assume I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. And there are a few things I'm still trying to get into, Rob. I'm actually from now on, I'm getting a separate phone, just a cheap phone that's going to be my like MFA phone that I will not take with me. I might even air gap it. I don't know. Can you air gap the MFA codes? I'll work that out. As in airplane mode, it really air gap sounds fancier.
Yeah. I don't know if you can. Don't know if it needs the internet to be able to produce producing the codes. I don't know. I actually don't know. That is a great shout, to have a secondary phone that just sits in your house or at your home office, or you take it into work. That has your one-time passcodes. Mine are built in. Most of mine are built into my password manager, and some of them are sitting on Google Authenticator, but I've got the backup code stored.
Other authenticators are available, and Robbie uses them all, so nobody's.
I use every single one of them. But yeah, going back to the original article, I think there's going to be a lot of people in the US right now that are not going to want to go to these games because they don't want to get their face scanned. They'll just rather sit at home, watch the game from their couch, man.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because, like I say, the US can have strong reactions to things like this. I just did a little look, and there has been in the UK for Premiership games it used sometimes, but it seems to be something that police put up occasionally when they need to monitor a game, rather than something that's like built in, embedded into it all the time.
So get the hooligans.
Yeah. I think that's what it's about.
Football hooligans.
But I'm glad we're not doing a podcast about recent events in the UK, because it would be hooligan central. But
yeah, Christ, we won't touch on that.
Yeah, we'll just say let's go get back to doing what we're supposed to be doing, and looking after the place we live in. Peace and love.
Peace and love, brother.
So last thing from chat before we wrap this up is they talk about the payment information being in their system and trusting them not to leak. So we talk about personal information. I think they want to point out to us that it's also payment information. We'll say PCI DSS is something that I cover a lot with my work. So there's a payment card industry, some data security standards, and there's a new one, 4.0, that's come out that's going to be in effect in next March. And so there are requirements for anyone who pulls your credit card data to take certain steps. But, you know, as all legislation, they are the bare minimum, and they're also really slow to legislate. They made this new standard like 4 years ago, and it's only coming into effect next year, and it's already a little bit dated. So yeah, not saying that's going to solve your problems, but it does mean that people can't just completely be willy-nilly with your payment information. But, you know, people have failed PCI and had fines for it after they've leaked credit card information or so on. But yeah,
or they don't get audited for years, and then I don't know, they got some bad practices and they suffer a breach, and then it's too late. But
well, my kitty cat is meowing at me like crazy. I don't really know why, but I think we've had a great conversation.
He wants some supper, does he? He wants some condensed milk.
He's gone now because he ripped my leads out, and we've had to cut the podcast. and he's outside. He's not getting any dinner. It's too late.
He was like, "This podcast sucks."
He just wants my attention. He said, "You've been on this for too long." So I think maybe he's right. Maybe it's time to wrap it up, Rob. And thank you so much for spending the time today. It was an interesting chat today. I know we kind of covered a lot of ground, and thank you for letting me kind of info dump what I've been studying on quantum computing and security. Hope that was helpful for you, and thanks for your inputs on the kind of security side of it as well.
I enjoyed it. We're learning something new every day. Quantum computers.
Always keep learning. That's the best thing about this industry. And hopefully you learn a little something today, audience. You'll find us next week. We might cover off some whole new knowledge bombs going off in your brains, but also we'll catch up with AJ maybe. I think he's had his wedding this last weekend, so he's off for a bit on his a little mini honeymoon before he goes on his big one. But hopefully we'll get a bit of a lowdown of how that wedding was. The Empirical Trainers minus Robbie all met for the first time in ages. So that was nice. Missed you, Rob.
I missed out on the group picky. I want to know how the speeches went, how the day went, if he was nervous, if he was stuttering over his words when he was saying his vows, if he cried when he did the classic turn when she's down the aisle.
Oh, he did the classic turn. I thought he cried. Turns out his eyes were sweating. He's a very sweaty man. It was a very hot day, but he was dabbing himself.
We can count them as tears then. Some salty tears, yeah.
Yeah, we'll cover that. We'll cover that in full next time when he's back. But until then, thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Robbie, for spending the time today. I've been Josh. This has been Empirical Training and the CyberSpace podcast.
And that is a wrap.
That's a wrap.
CyberSpace podcast.
Empirical training. You guys are cyber nerds. Do you know what I mean? So like, Empirical training.